Tales of my exploits have been largely underestimated. Seriously, I tell you the things that I have done as Pirate King Hondo is... It is legendary, my friends. However, the powers that be at this mysterious organization known as Capital Games, they think they can steal from me. I am Hondo. I decide who wins. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen of the tribe, to another Galaxy of Heroes video with me, your bald boy scribe. How the devil are we all doing? So, CG does what CG does best, which is wait for me to go to sleep before announcing news. Those people. How dare they? How dare they? I will let them off. It was the end of the day on Friday. They're allowed to, save the best news till the end. So we've been talking a little bit about Pirate King Hondo and his recent buff. Well, CG is doing the old Uno reverse and saying, no you. That buff has now been reversed. Let's talk about it. Those of you that are unaware, the buff that I'm talking about here is that Pirate King Hondo, in a recent update, was able to use his first special to steal, literally, any buff, and I mean any buff. Anything with a green icon on the enemy team, he could go in and just be like, yoink! That'll be mine, and then he would spread it to his entire team, which is rather funny and curious because there are a number of buffs in this game that historically you haven't been able to steal or copy, like Keen Stratagem we can see over here. Pirate King Hondo is like, I'll have me some of that Keen Stratagem and I'll just give it to all my allies. Now, obviously, there are far more egregious buffs that Pirate King Hondo could steal in this instance. For example, he could steal Master's Training, Keen Stratagem, every and any what tech, so the tank tech, the weapons tech, the med pack tech, all three in fact, and spread them to all his allies. The Blessed buff from the Night Sisters. He could also steal things like the Execute ability from Cobb Vanth, making everybody be insta-kill machines. He can steal things like Ancestral Resolve from Bo-Katan Mandalore. Quite literally, any single buff in this game, he could take it and pass it to his entire team. CG did come out with a post last night, and I want to read over it and think between the lines a little bit. So here we are, a 3-minute read that came out 12 hours ago from CG Meathead, our wonderful community manager extraordinaire. Big shout out to Meathead once again. Thank you, Meathead, for spreading out the goodwill and cheer yesterday by giving winners of our quiz some 3,000 crystals apiece. 5 lots of you were winners last night in our quiz, so thank you for joining the live stream. Also, earlier in the week, we did get 5 people getting gifted 5 pulls of Darkside Yoda, the gremlin himself. Thank you for the interaction. Okay, so, hello Holotable heroes. We want to clarify the unexpected Galactic Legend Pirate King Hondo changes some players have seen in-game. This is true, yes, we did see them. From the conception of Pirate King Hondo Onaka's kit, we intended for him to be able to interact with and steal certain locked buffs. We liked both the gameplay opportunities this created and the thematic idea of Hondo being the pirate that he is, bending the rules around what could normally be taken from an opponent, because I am Hondo. Yes, no, I actually think thematically speaking is actually a really, really cool interaction. We discovered that this interaction was not functioning correctly when Hondo was released, so we started working on a solution for it, but that solution was released earlier than intended. So, I mean, they're basically saying, guys, we realized Pirate King Hondo wasn't stealing the right buffs. We were working on it behind the scenes, and it accidentally got pushed live by the sounds of things. Hondo now stealing locked buffs in the game has also highlighted an important clarity issue. Not every locked buff is eligible to be stolen, and we currently don't have a good way to communicate to players which buffs are valid targets. Yeah, there's nothing in the game that says this can't be stolen at all. Like, ever. There's certain things say they can't be copied, but copied and stolen is as I discussed in my previous video, those are different mechanics, just like heal immunity and shock are different mechanics, just like marked and taunt are different mechanics. They may have some similarities, they may have similar functionalities, but they are essentially different abilities. While the mechanic creates some interesting possibilities, we asked players to build counterplay around information that they can't reasonably access, and that isn't something we are comfortable with. Which is, it's largely fair. I've said it for a long time now. I really wish Galaxy of Heroes had a glossary where you could actually look up what every single buff, debuff, status effect, every single one of them can do, and it will give you a description of what it does. The game right now is a little bit of a mess with its ever-expanding list of buffs and debuffs with no central location for us to be like, oh, that's what this does. Sure, there are third-party websites like Swigger.gg and SwiggerWiki that give you some rundown of the information on these, but that is reliant upon the community updating those pages to keep it fresh. And there are big gaps, and it is confusing and unclear. I would love it if we just had a glossary in the game that said, this is what this does, when we can, pause the game at any point and see a list of every single buff and see what it does, right? Like, quickly and clearly. But I understand that is a massive undertaking for CG. It would take them a very long time to do. It sounds like that's them problem and not an us problem, but I don't have a whole lot of hope that that's coming to the game anytime soon. I hope it does. I really do hope it does. Because of this, we will be reverting Hondo's ability to steal locked buffs in an upcoming release.
What is this absolute treachery?
I don't know when this is going to be just now. It's probably still in the game at the moment, still going to interact with GAC and Territory Wars. And I do have a very important PSA that needs to be listened to later on in this video around a specific matchup that you really want to avoid if you are attacking Pirate King Hondo, okay? It is worth noting that these underlying issues also reached beyond Hondo's steal and affected several other characters as well, and these fixes are functioning as intended and will not be reverted. Okay, Pirate King Hondo's basic ability. Hondo was not correctly counting locked buffs and debuffs on Jedi and Sith enemies when removing turn meter. I can't even remember what that does. Let's go ahead and check that real quick. I'm on the alt account, so we can't really see effectively what's going on. Hondo's basic ability, Pistol Panache. Deal physical damage to the target enemy and gain a stack of profit. This ability scores a critical hit. All pirate allies also gain a stack of profit. Pirate King Hondo, if it's his turn, call a random pirate attacker and a random other pirate ally to assist in 2% more damage for your stack of profit and 3 allies. And if the target is Jedi or Sith, remove 2% turn meter for each buff and debuff on them. So I'm guessing it wasn't... Was it not doing enough, or was it doing too much? Unclear at this point, but okay. Cassian Undercover's unique ability. Enemies who should have been inflicted with Undermine from Cassian's ability were not being inflicted with it, where their allies granted them a locked buff. That's interesting, because he's supposed to inflict... I think he's supposed to spread additional instances of Undermine, right, on his basic when he attacks them. Something like that. Cobb Vanth. Defense up from Cobb Vanth's special ability was not correctly tagged as a locked buff, so I'm guessing maybe it could be dispelled. Kelleran Breck's Second Wind. Unique was not correctly tagged as a locked buff. Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure, yeah, I've never really noticed that before, never considered it, but Kelleran Breck's Second Wind ability, it just triggers, doesn't it? There's no buff sign there. At least I think there isn't any. Both Ability Block and Rebel Network, granted by Claire's This Is Do or Die ability, were not correctly targeted as locked buffs. KX Security Droid's abilities, his Omicron was not targeted as a locked buff. Satil Shan was not applying speed down to enemies with locked debuff. Okay. Bulwark came from Scorch's second special, was not correctly tagged as a locked buff. There's a lot of buffs over here that just weren't tagged correctly. Because this removal affects some matchups where the issue happening to coincide with characters that were not correctly tagged, Hondo will not be able to steal a small number of the locked buffs that he used to be able to. We will continue to monitor this closely for further adjustments as necessary. Thank you for your patience and see you on the holotables, the dev team. Very good, very good. Okay, so what can we take from this, ladies and gentlemen? What can we take from this? Well, first and foremost, this is why it's kind of important for these things to get tested and for us to go out there as a community and try and really break the game as much as possible, I guess. Because there has been loads of testing that I've seen online of people going up against really bizarre comps, right? You know, comps that you will never realistically actually see. You know, people that are using, Wat Tambor, and they're throwing in Drogon and Grandmaster Yoda and other people in order to get as many unique buffs as they possibly can on a team and spread it out, and then have Hondo steal all of it and say, look how broken he is, right? Because in reality, whilst I understand the importance of that, right? In reality, a lot of the things that Pirate King Hondo ends up stealing won't actually impact the matchup at all, because you will never use any of those characters to counter Pirate King Hondo, let alone multiples of those characters in some sort of Frankenstein team to try and take him down. The end result of what this original buff to his kit actually did was largely minimal. I say largely, okay? Because the counters that we use to counter Pirate King Hondo still work. They're not impacted, or they are impacted, but it is to a minor degree that doesn't affect the matchup. So, for example, in yesterday's GAC stream, I came across a Pirate King Hondo on defense, lots of Relic 9s, lots of Relic 8s, and I decided to take in my standard counter to that team, which is going to be a Seer Maul Malakos. Now, there was concerns because Hondo can obviously steal that critical hit immunity locked buff and spread it to his team. People were a little bit worried that this counter would no longer work, but that does not seem to be the case. It seems to be an absolutely fine counter still to this day. Yes, Datacrons may well be shifting things one way or another. I believe I was using a 400% attack from defense cron, basically a really, really solid Datacron to be using, generally speaking. But as you can see, we are doing crazy, crazy work here. That 400% on a Maul team it goes hard. It goes hard. It took a minute, more or less, to kill the entire team, leaving just a solo Pirate King Hondo. And it's not like he can revive. He can't bring them back or anything like that, because there is no revives when you've got Malakos in the team. So it turned out that it wasn't too big of a deal. And look, he lost that crit hit immunity now. We're like, oh, okay, well, now we can go around and just absolutely destroy him with Malakos for good banners as well. I think I only dropped 2. There you go, yeah. 2 units which did not have full protection. So that counter in particular worked absolutely fine. And I've heard that the current counter using Jango Fett with the Jango Cron also still works. They can revive there because they can steal that Bounty Hunter's Resolve, but if you kill a unit with Jango Fett, they're not coming back anyway, right? There is one interaction, though, that I do want to say you have to be very, very careful about. And we did test this on the stream yesterday. I'm just going to find it. And it's this setup here. Now, this is very, very specific. But basically, once GL Ahsoka has done her second ultimate, she is able to get a new buff. Well, it's not new buff, it's relatively new buff at this point. A buff called Deflective Ward. And what Deflective Ward does is it reduces all damage to 1 for the next attack. So that it's kind of like Rey's ultimate, right? You only take 1 damage. Now, the problem is that buff is supposed to expire after you take that 1 hit. Currently, it is not interacting correctly when Pirate King Hondo steals it. You can see that I've stolen Deflective Ward over here, and it's on Pirate King Hondo. And the problem is, it is not expiring. So it's also on Vayne at the back there, and they're just doing 1 hit, 1 hit, 1 hit, 1 hit, and it is there perpetually. Now, this is a very, very specific matchup, obviously very, very specific, but it can be entirely match-breaking, because nobody wants to have a Deflective Ward that is permanent. It's supposed to disappear after a single hit, but if Pirate King Hondo steals it, you are doing 1 damage forever, basically. Forever. Now, it does require you to get to this point, and as you can see, you're timing out over here. I'm timing out this deliberately because it's actually really difficult to get Ahsoka to do this organically when she's on defense. The bigger concern is if you see a Pirate King Hondo on defense and you take your Ahsoka on offense, because you'll be able to ultimate very, very quickly, and if you do that second ultimate, you are almost guaranteed to ask for your Deflective Ward to be stolen and placed upon the Pirate King Hondo team, creating quite literally an unkillable team. Because it would take you a very long time to defeat a Pirate King Hondo team when you're doing 1 damage to the units, okay? And then he'll revive those units anyway. So it's not a good place to be. Do not take your glat against a Pirate King Hondo. Now, what can we say further about this change? I think that it is important that CG fix this interaction and fix which buffs that he can steal and how they interact. I don't mind him stealing Deflective Ward. I don't mind him stealing all the tank tech, the weapons tech, the medpack tech. I don't mind him stealing Blessed. I don't mind him stealing Master's Training and Keen Stratagem and all these really cool unique buffs. It gives a nice flavor to Pirate King Hondo. But when he does steal them, they do need to interact correctly. So, you know, for example, make sure he can't, like, stack those things so he's gaining multiple copies of Master's Training. I don't know if he can at the moment. Make sure that if he steals Deflective Ward, it actually disappears after you take a hit, that sort of thing. it would be great if this can get fixed rather sharpish and rewound and sort of corrected straight away, but it's not going to get corrected over this weekend, so I do not expect anybody to have that matchup change, basically, this week of GAC. I don't think it is a big deal. Like I said, the only real thing to watch out for is a locked Deflective ward, because that can be kind of game-breaking, and that can affect certain matchups. It's very, very specific and very, very unique, okay? More broadly about Pirate King Hondo, I think that when they do fix it, it should be communicated fully, transparently, upfront about, hey, we're making a change to this kit, it's supposed to interact like this. Let's get that communication loud and proud out the front. So like Meathead was saying, let's make sure people are fully aware of it and they can actually plan around it, not just be, surprise, Pirate King Hondo is stealing stuff that you didn't think he would, even if the matchup is not drastically impacted. Okay, cool. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to about do it for today's video. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you all in the very next video. Peace out, and may the Force be with you.